Imagine standing on the roof of the world, where the air is thin and the wind cuts through bone. In 1938, a team of German researchers climbed into the freezing heights of the Himalayas. They did not carry standard surveying equipment to map the peaks. Instead, they carried brass calipers, cameras, and plaster. They were looking for the lost continent of Atlantis. Why did the Nazis send archaeologists to Tibet to find Atlantis? This question sounds like the premise of a sensationalist movie, a piece of pulp fiction designed to entertain. But the reality is far more terrifying. This was a state-sanctioned, highly funded scientific expedition. It was part of a massive institutional effort to rewrite human history, to prove that a mythical master race once ruled the earth, and to provide the intellectual justification for the systematic murder of millions of people. Pop culture has painted a very specific picture of this era. We see movies where SS officers in heavy leather coats stand in candlelit caverns, chanting over glowing relics. They chase the Ark of the Covenant or try to summon ancient demons to win the war. We laugh at these stories because they feel cartoonish. We relegate them to the category of fiction, viewing the perpetrators as a fringe group of madmen who lost their minds in the pursuit of magic. But this caricature hides a much darker, far more uncomfortable reality. The search for these myths was not conducted by isolated fanatics in the shadows. It was planned, funded, and executed by a highly bureaucratic, state-sanctioned academic apparatus. This was the Ahnenerbe. It was not a gathering of amateur occultists meeting in secret basements. It was an official state institution staffed by mainstream academics, university professors, linguists, geologists, and anthropologists. These were men with doctorates from prestigious European universities, individuals who had spent their lives writing peer-reviewed papers and lecturing to halls full of students. They did not operate on the margins of German society. They weaponized mainstream science and the humanities, using the credibility of their academic titles to normalize state-sponsored violence. By examining the origins of this network, we uncover a terrifying truth: how a modern nation systematically converted ancient myths into the scientific justification for mass murder. To understand how this nightmare began, we must look at a specific date, July 1, 1935. On this day, 3 men met in Berlin to establish a new organization. The first was Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, a man obsessed with creating a new racial elite. The second was Herman Wirth, a Dutch prehistorian who claimed that a lost, highly advanced Nordic civilization had once ruled the world. The third was Richard Walther Darré, who championed the ideology of blood and soil. Together, they founded the Ahnenerbe. The name translates literally to ancestral heritage. Its explicit, state-mandated mission was to find archaeological and historical proof of the global dominance of the Aryan race. Himmler was not interested in objective historical truth. He had a specific goal: to establish a pre-Christian, Germanic identity that would replace traditional religion. He viewed Christianity as a weak, foreign import that corrupted the natural warrior instincts of the German people. To replace it, the state needed a new mythology, one that aligned perfectly with Nazi racial purity goals. The Ahnenerbe was designed to be the factory where this mythology was manufactured. This marked the beginning of state-funded pseudo-archaeology. The conclusion was decided first. The Aryan race was the source of all human civilization. The task of the Ahnenerbe was to go out into the world and find, or invent, the evidence to support it. What started as a small research group quickly grew into a massive bureaucratic monster. Within a few years, the Ahnenerbe expanded to control over 50 distinct research departments. These departments covered a bewildering array of subjects. There were divisions dedicated to the study of runic symbols, medieval folklore, local dialects, and traditional German botany. There were departments for geology, paleontology, and classical archaeology. The state poured massive resources into these projects, purchasing historic castles, funding excavations across Europe, and establishing state-of-the-art laboratories. Mainstream academics, historians, and linguists did not resist this takeover. They actively joined the ranks. They were lured by the promise of unlimited funding, academic prestige, and rapid career advancement. In a country where university budgets were being slashed and political loyalty was demanded, the Ahnenerbe offered a safe haven for researchers willing to bend their work to fit the party line. This vast academic bureaucracy worked in unison to rewrite school textbooks, curate museum exhibits, and publish popular articles. They slowly and systematically shifted public perception, turning wild racial theories into accepted scientific facts in the minds of the German public. One of the most famous examples of the Ahnenerbe's early work was the search for the Holy Grail. The organization funded the research of Otto Rahn, a young writer and historian who had spent years studying the medieval Cathar sect in southern France. Rahn was obsessed with the fortress of Montségur, a ruined castle perched on a steep crag, where the Cathars had made their final stand against the Catholic Church in the 13th century. Rahn believed that the Cathars were not heretics, but the keepers of a secret, pre-Christian Germanic wisdom. He argued that the Holy Grail was not a Christian cup containing the blood of Christ, but a sacred stone or symbol of this ancient Nordic truth, which the Catholic Church had desperately tried to destroy. The SS saw immense value in Rahn's theories. By co-opting Christian and medieval mythology, they could strip these legends of their Jewish and Christian roots, reframing them to fit into SS ideology. Himmler envisioned the SS as a modern order of knights, and he wanted a holy relic to legitimize their status. The Ahnenerbe funded Rahn's expeditions to Montségur, where he searched the caves and ruins for any trace of the Grail. This expedition was a clear demonstration of how the regime used historical sites to construct a pseudo-historical lineage for the SS elite, attempting to turn medieval fantasy into a foundation for state power. As the Ahnenerbe grew, its rejection of conventional science extended far beyond history and archaeology. The leadership of the organization targeted the hard sciences, rejecting conventional physics and astronomy. They labeled modern theories, including Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, as Jewish sciences that corrupted the true understanding of the universe. In their place, they promoted a bizarre pseudo-scientific cosmology known as the world ice theory, or Weltallehre, originally proposed by an Austrian engineer named Hans Herbiger. According to the world ice theory, the universe was not shaped by gravity and complex astrophysics, but by a perpetual struggle between blocks of ice and fire. The theory claimed that the solar system was once filled with giant ice moons that gradually spiraled inward, crashing into the Earth over millions of years. These cosmic impacts caused massive global disasters, including the Great Flood described in ancient mythologies. The Ahnenerbe argued that only the strongest, most resilient Aryan ancestors survived these cataclysms, developing their superior physical and mental traits in the harsh conditions of a frozen world. By enforcing this pseudoscience, the state successfully isolated German academia from the global scientific community, replacing empirical evidence with a mythic, racialized view of the cosmos. With the Ahnenerbe firmly established at home, Himmler's ambitions expanded beyond the borders of Europe. It was no longer enough to study German soil or European folklore. The regime wanted to prove that ancient Aryans had ruled the entire globe, leaving behind traces of their civilization in the most remote corners of the earth. The organization began planning international expeditions to locate the remnants of this supposed master race. This shift marked a dangerous transition. The Ahnenerbe was no longer content with analyzing old texts or digging up ancient graves. They prepared to apply the methods of physical anthropology to living populations abroad. They wanted to find physical, genetic proof that the descendants of their mythic ancestors still existed. The researchers packed their bags, loaded their crates with specialized measuring equipment, and prepared to embark on expeditions that would map the racial characteristics of people thousands of miles away, setting the stage for a global application of their theories. In 1938, this global ambition led the Ahnenerbe to finance a high-profile expedition to the Himalayas. The team was led by Ernst Scheffer, a young zoologist and SS officer who had already participated in previous expeditions to Asia. Along with him was Bruno Bajur, an anthropologist who specialized in racial theories. The team traveled through British-controlled India, navigating difficult political terrain and harsh weather, before finally arriving in the closed city of Lhasa, Tibet. They did not travel light. They carried anthropometric tools, cameras, and plaster for making face molds. Once in Tibet, Bajur and his team began systematically measuring the physical characteristics of the local population. They stood Tibetan citizens against walls, using metal calipers to measure the length and width of their skulls, the shape of their noses, the distance between their eyes, and the proportions of their limbs. They recorded eye colors, took hair samples, and forced subjects to sit still, while wet plaster was poured over their faces to create permanent life masks. They collected thousands of measurements, treating human beings like biological specimens to be cataloged and analyzed. But why Tibet? Why would a regime obsessed with European dominance send a scientific expedition to the roof of the world? The answer lies in the primary driver behind the expedition: the search for the lost continent of Atlantis. Ahnenerbe founders like Herman Wirth believed that Atlantis was not a myth, but the actual, historical homeland of the Nordic race. They believed that thousands of years ago, a highly advanced Aryan civilization thrived on this northern landmass. Before a cosmic catastrophe, such as the falling moons of the world ice theory, caused the continent to sink beneath the ocean. According to their hypothesis, the survivors of this disaster fled the rising waters, migrating to the highest landmasses on Earth to escape the flood. The Himalayas, being the highest mountain range in the world, became their primary refuge. The Ahnenerbe believed that these survivors settled in Tibet, where they established a ruling aristocracy. Over thousands of years, they believed, this population had preserved their genetic purity, isolated from the rest of the world by the high mountain passes. By finding physical similarities between the Tibetan aristocracy and their idealized Aryan type, the Nazis sought to prove that all high civilization globally originated from Nordic bloodlines, linking the roof of the world directly to the myth of Atlantis. In September 1939, the German army invaded Poland, sparking the Second World War. With the outbreak of hostilities, the Ahnenerbe's focus shifted rapidly. The organization could no longer justify spending vast resources on historical research and remote expeditions that did not directly contribute to the war effort. The academic network was integrated into the military machine, redirecting its focus to military medicine, biological warfare, and practical wartime research. This transition revealed the true danger of the Ahnenerbe's philosophy. The same pseudoscientific principles that had been used to study ancient bones and measure skulls in Tibet were now applied to living human subjects in the name of military necessity. The boundaries between academic curiosity and state-sponsored violence dissolved entirely. The professors and researchers who had spent years arguing about runes and cosmic ice now put their skills to work for the military, using their academic credentials to justify experiments that would result in agony and death for thousands of helpless prisoners. This descent into horror reached its peak at the Dachau concentration camp. The Ahnenerbe authorized Dr. Sigmund Rascher, an SS physician and researcher, to conduct medical experiments on prisoners. Rascher was interested in solving practical problems faced by German military pilots, such as how to survive at extremely high altitudes, or how to recover from severe hypothermia after being shot down in the freezing waters of the North Sea. To simulate high-altitude conditions, Rascher constructed a mobile decompression chamber. Prisoners were locked inside, and the air pressure was rapidly lowered to simulate altitudes of up to 68,000 feet. The victims experienced severe oxygen deprivation, brain damage, and excruciating pain, often ending in death. For the freezing experiments, Rascher forced prisoners to stand naked in the winter cold or submerge them in tanks of ice-cold water for hours. He monitored their body temperatures, heart rates, and muscle spasms as they drifted into unconsciousness. The victims were warmed using various methods, including hot baths and being placed between naked female prisoners. These lethal tests were documented with meticulous academic precision, complete with charts, graphs, and photographs, and the results were presented at scientific conferences within the Reich as legitimate medical research. At the same time, another Ahnenerbe researcher was working to create a permanent monument to the regime's racial theories. Dr. August Hirt, the director of the Anatomical Institute at the Reich University of Strasbourg, wanted to establish a collection of Jewish skeletons. The purpose of this collection was to provide anatomical proof of the physical characteristics of the Jewish race, which the regime viewed as a distinct, subhuman species. To build this collection, Hirt ordered the selected murder of 86 Jewish inmates at the Natzweiler-Struthof concentration camp. The victims, who were chosen for their specific physical features, were gassed in a specially constructed chamber. Their bodies were then transported to the Anatomical Institute in Strasbourg. There, researchers began the process of defleshing the corpses and preparing the skeletons for display. The collection was intended to serve as scientific evidence for future generations. A museum display to show what the Jewish people looked like after their planned total extermination was complete. The project was cut short by the advance of Allied forces, who discovered the partially processed bodies hidden in the basement of the Institute. The search for Atlantis in Tibet was never a harmless pursuit of ancient myths. It was a vital step in constructing the intellectual foundation for the Holocaust. By creating a narrative where the Aryan race was a distinct, semi-divine species that survived cosmic cataclysms and founded all global civilizations, the Nazis stripped other races of their common humanity. They argued that other populations were not fully human, but rather the products of evolutionary degeneration or interbreeding. If the Aryan race was the sole creator of culture, and if its survival was threatened by racial mixing, then protecting its purity was not just a political goal, it was framed as a biological duty, a law of nature. The pseudo-scientific research conducted by the Ahnenerbe in Tibet and Europe provided the justification. That made the industrial murder of millions look like a necessary act of self-defense. It allowed the bureaucrats who signed the death warrants and the soldiers who operated the gas chambers to believe they were participating in a grand, scientific purification of the human species, rather than a monstrous crime. The legacy of the Ahnenerbe stands as a warning. It shows us that education, academic titles, and scientific institutions do not guarantee morality. The men who designed the experiments at Dachau, who measured the skulls in Tibet, and who preserved the bones in Strasbourg, were not uneducated thugs. They were doctors, professors, and researchers from some of the most prestigious universities in Europe. They were individuals who allowed their intellect to be corrupted by ideology. When state power dictates scientific consensus, truth is replaced by dogma, and intellectuals can easily become complicit in atrocity. We must remain vigilant against the manipulation of history and science to justify division and hatred. It is easy to look back at the pseudoscience of the Ahnenerbe and dismiss it as a relic of a dark past. But the impulse to bend facts to fit a predetermined narrative is still very much alive today. The ultimate lesson of the Ahnenerbe is that when we allow myths to replace evidence, and when we value ideological purity over objective truth, the consequences are measured in human lives. We carry the responsibility to demand evidence, to question authority, and to remember that science must always serve humanity, not destroy it. Let us make sure we do not forget.